What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's Seth Velez here again for another episode of You've Got Cancer, Now What? This is episode 3, and we're going to talk all about my experiences with outpatient chemotherapy, the side effects I had, and how I dealt with them. Let's go. So in our last episode, we talked all about inpatient chemotherapy. And I know I made it seem like it was a horrible, horrible thing, because it kind of is, but it does have its pros over outpatient chemotherapy. See, outpatient chemotherapy is where you go to a chemo center, get your chemo, and then you go home. Now, the upside to that is you get to go home. You're home, in your bed, with your family, eating the food you love. You're not stuck in a hospital. You can go outside, you can do things. But there are some cons when you're in the hospital and you're not feeling too good, or maybe you catch a sudden fever, you have staff there to immediately take care of you. It's a beautiful thing. You feel sick, you call your nurse, nurse helps you by giving you meds or whatever the case may be. When you're doing outpatient chemotherapy, you don't have that luxury. And sometimes the crappy part about it is, depending on your symptoms, you might have to go back to the hospital to get treatment or get looked at. So if you're like me, where you live 45 minutes away, that kind of sucks because you have to drive to go to this hospital to get looked at if you're not feeling well. Now, of course, that is an extreme case. That's not something that happens all the time, but if you start running like really high fevers or something, obviously that's something you can't deal with at home, and a doctor's gonna wanna see you. However, on the flip side to that, 9 times out of 10, they're gonna send you home with meds to manage what's going on with your chemotherapy, your pain, your nausea, anything like that. They're gonna give you a script or multiple scripts, send you home, and hopefully those can kind of mitigate the issues that you're having so you don't have to go back to the hospital. However, like I said, if you're on like extreme fevers or something like that, you're taking a trip right back to your hospital emergency room, and you're probably gonna get admitted. So it is what it is. One thing I do want to be very straight up and forward with you guys is chemotherapy sucks. A lot of the forums that I read when I was sick really tried to sugarcoat or downplay the problems. Like, oh, you might get sick, and oh, you might lose your hair, and oh, you might lose your appetite. It's not a might. Listen, every side effect or symptom that chemo label read, I got. It was terrible. Chemotherapy was a horrible experience. So if you're getting ready to go through it, I don't want to even sugarcoat it and try and give you like high hopes. I want to give you like the real perspective that it sucks. Everything about it sucks. Getting your chemotherapy sucks. After chemotherapy sucks. Managing all the symptoms that come with the treatment sucks. But it's something you have to do. We've talked all about how chemotherapy sucks, but now it's time for me to tell you exactly what I did to help me get through it. One of the very first things you're gonna wanna do, just like with inpatient chemotherapy, is rest. Rest your face off. If you had the energy to get up and do something, then I highly recommend you get up and do something. Other than that, I suggest you rest. Lay down, take a load off, relax for a little bit, understand that your body is currently being poisoned, like every cell in your body is dying. So you're gonna need to give yourself some time to like rebuild, right? You don't wanna do anything to harm yourself, and not resting is only gonna make things a million times worse. However, if you're feeling really good and up to it, exercise. Now, I'm not talking about go to the gym, bench press 500 pounds and feel like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm talking like go outside your house, walk 1/8 of a mile, come back home. If that felt great and you wake up the next day feeling good, then get up, maybe try a little more than 1/8 of a mile and come back home. Maybe there's a birthday party or a function that you really want to attend. If you have the energy, do it. You don't want to be cooped up and feel like you're in inpatient chemo jail, because you're not. That's the whole point of doing outpatient chemotherapy. Keep in mind though, people, you're doing chemotherapy, so your blood levels are gonna be all over the place and wonky. Now, you're gonna get tested, so you'll know what your neutrophil count is and know if you're able to be around people, but just like take precaution. Like go out, enjoy yourself, but if it's like the middle of winter and you're getting chemo done, try and stay away from large crowds, especially at times when like colds are running rampant, because you're really susceptible to getting sick, and you don't wanna get sick on top of being sick. Because remember what I said earlier about having to go to the hospital? If you catch a cold, you're gonna have to go get checked out because they're gonna have to swab you. And the way they do it is this nifty nose swab that literally feels like it's going up to your brain. So if you don't wanna experience that, then like pick and choose where you go, when you go. That way you're not around sick people and you don't run the risk of getting yourself sick on top of feeling like crap from the already crappy chemotherapy. As far as pain and aches go, you're gonna have to refer to your doctors, okay? Depending on where you are in the country, there might be different options for you. If you're in a state with medicinal marijuana, I've read really great things about medicinal marijuana and chemotherapy patients. I heard it works wonders. If it's an option that you can explore, I highly recommend trying it. If it's not, you're gonna have to go the opioid route. And listen, prescription opioids are legal and they're there. But one thing you need to remember is this country is currently in an opioid epidemic. People are getting addicted to these opioids and doing crazy things, like even trying heroin and stuff, because they can't get their prescriptions anymore. That goes for other drugs too. When I got out of the hospital, my doctors had me on Xanax as an anti-anxiety medication. They had me on an antidepressant, I can't remember which one, but they all suck, so it doesn't matter. They had me on Ativan for nausea relief, and they had me on Ambien to go to sleep. Every single one of these medications does have a risk to it. You can get addicted to any one of those. And honestly, from what I understand and from what I've researched, stuff like Xanax and Ambien is way worse to get off of. And from what I understand, the withdrawal is absolutely horrendous. So again, I understand that these are prescription drugs that are given to you, and not saying you're gonna abuse them because you don't have to. Just using them can make you addicted. So again, talk to your doctors, understand what you're getting into and what you're taking, and make sure you take the precautions so that when you're done this journey and you beat it, because you will, you won't have any problems that aren't cancer related. You don't want to deal with that. Nobody does. So just educate yourself, be really smart about it, and make sure you take precautions with everything you take. Chemo can also cause some very serious GI issues. It's gonna make you nauseous, it's gonna make you constipated. Some of the ways I got around that was I would drink like ginger tea. My stomach wasn't feeling that great. It kind of eased it just a little bit and got me through. As far as the constipation, I tried like over-the-counter products, laxatives, or like things to kind of help get things going. But one of the things I found worked the best was prune juice, believe it or not. If grandma told you to drink your prune juice to stay regular, she wasn't kidding. It worked like a charm. And honestly, I know it's like a little gross and some of you may be thinking TMI, but like it's a side effect of chemo and you might experience it. All right, we've covered the physical side effects of chemotherapy. Now it's time to talk about something that nobody really likes to talk about, and that's the mental side effects of chemo and cancer. The very first thing is stress. Stress will kill you. So I know it's easier said than done, but try and limit your stresses. Listen, I get it. You're at a point of uncertainty. You don't know what's going on, and that's scary. And being scared can cause stress. But you need to understand that you can't stress yourself out. What happened already happened. You already have cancer. Sorry, get over it. You have it. What you need to do is focus that stress into other energies, positive energies. Thinking about things like your chemos, making sure you're channeling that energy to really figure out your course and figure out what you're doing instead of letting it stress you out. Because stress will eat you alive, and that's not cool. Don't let it. The next thing is something very real that you don't have to be going through chemotherapy or cancer to deal with, and that is depression. People suffer from depression every day. Okay, you can be depressed without being sick, but I can guarantee you, now that you have cancer and now that you're dealing with chemotherapy and all these side effects and everything going on, you feel like your world is literally crushing around you. I understand wholeheartedly, and the only thing I can give you for advice is to talk. Talk to somebody. Do not be afraid to talk to somebody. Find someone to talk to. It could be your mom, it could be a family member, it could be a friend, it doesn't matter. Even if you don't have somebody super close that you feel comfortable sharing this with, you can always hit up a text service. There's apps that have people that will literally text you and talk to you about what's going on in your life. There are hotlines that you can call, that you can talk to somebody. The point is to talk, get it off your chest. Because if you let it sit and fester, it's gonna make you depressed, and being depressed while you're going through this is just not an option. It can't happen. You need to remain positive. You need to have that positive outlook on life because things are already crappy. You don't wanna make them any crappier. At the end of the day, this is all terrible and it sucks, I get it, but you can do it. Just remember that. And that concludes episode 3. I'd like to thank you guys for taking the time to watch this. If you found this any bit helpful or useful for you or somebody you know, please hit the like, hit the subscribe, share this page on social media platforms. I'm trying to get the word out there to all these people, just trying to help as many people as I can. Episode 4 will be out next week, and that'll be a little different. This one's not geared towards cancer patients. This is geared towards our caregivers or our caretakers, and you'll know exactly what I mean by that next week. Again, thank you for watching. For everything You've Got Cancer Now What related and updates, check me out at DJ Seth V on Instagram. Thanks again. See you next week.